Hello and welcome to Steve's Sugar Crafts tutorials. I'm Steve Benison, and over the last 5 weeks I've shown you how to create some of my cake designs and decorations. I hope you'll enjoy the last week that we've got in this series, and we're going to be doing the naked flowers and the naked leaves. So let's make a start and join in. So for the naked leaves, any that I put on the side of the cake, I'm going to use a flower and modelling paste. These are for the pieces that are going to stick directly onto the side. For all of the other pieces, the off pieces, I'm going to use some Mexican paste, and the Mexican paste I've coloured with the Pro Gel colours, and I've prepared my 3 different colours of pastes that I'm going to use, and I've worked this in really well and it's ready for me to use. The naked leaves cutter, we've got our maple, we've got our acer, and we've also got our holly leaf. What I just need to do with those is grease them just a little bit with some Trex or some Crisco prior to using them. So I'm going to roll out some Mexican paste, just put a little bit of the Crisco or Trex on there and roll out the paste fairly thinly. It's important that you roll it thinly, as if it's too thick it will actually go down too far in the cutter. So if we roll that, and it's a good idea as well if you can let it rest a while. Let's lift that from the board, and if we cut out our first leaf, place your paste over the top like that, and then roll over it. I prefer to do it this way so that you can actually see where you're cutting out. And if you just take a palette knife and go across the top of your cutter like that, that will take away any burry edges, and then with a scriber just take out the pieces that you don't need. And then with your thumb or your finger, just rub it backwards and forwards across the top to make sure you've got any loose pieces removed. You tap your cutter on the board quite firmly. You should be able to peel it straight away from your cutter like that. Place that on your board. Just place that onto your kitchen paper, and I'm going to colour this first of all with a little bit of super gold, just smaller areas of the leaf like that, and then I'm going to use some avocado, so just brush on the top there, so you can merge that in with the gold, so you've got that nice blended effect. You can try this with other colours as well, particularly for autumns and reds and bronzes. Looks really stunning. So we do that. Now if we take our piece of the kitchen roll, what we can do is just lift that up and pop that in there to dry. Now you can change the direction how you want it to dry, across or down like that, and allow that to dry to go onto your cake. For the side of the cake, I'm going to use a half leaf. So I'm just going to take the handle of a paintbrush and put a little bit of pressure down the centre just to make it a little bit wider on there. And then take a small knife and cut that in half. just cut down the centre there. Turn it that way. So I'm going to colour those ones avocado green shimmer. So it gives a hint of green without overpowering it. So we'll brush that on a bit more. And there. So we can pop those in between that paper, the plastic, and then they can stay pliable until I'm ready to use them on the side of the cake. To wire the leaf, what I'm going to do is take a 26 gauge wire and just put a little bit of paste on the wire and then twist this and pull it all the way down the wire like that. So we've got the paste covering that as we go. Take that down to the end. Just roll that a little bit on the board. And then the leaf, which is still plastic hard, if you just turn that over the back and put a little bit of Tylo's glue down the back vein, and then you can pop your wire on there to put a little bit of pressure. And you can bend the wire to how much curve you want to have your leaf in, and then allow that to dry. And I've prepared the paste ready for the acer, so we'll place that over the top and roll over again. So just take our palette knife, clean over the top, and then take your scriber so we can remove those areas there. And then just rub your fingers over the top. Sometimes if you use a little scriber there just to get part of the corner of the leaf out, that does help. So I'll just give that a little tap. And there we go. So what I'm just going to do is colour that one as well with the gold and the greens. So a little bit of the gold onto that area. You can also cut out just elements of the leaf shape if you don't want to use the whole leaf. So you could use part of it like that, or you could use that amount here. And you can use this on the side of the cake in just little leaf elements, which looks really nice too. So we'll brush that over. You can dry it on a piece of foam sponge like that. So just move it to the area where you think is going to work best for you on your cake, and allow that to dry until it's fully dried. And I've prepared the paste here ready for the holly leaf. So little tracks on the cutter and then the paste over the top. And take it backwards and forwards. Just clean across there with the palette knife. And then take out those sections there. The holly leaf
out. And then we'll transfer that so we can colour it. And I'm just going to colour part of the leaf edge there with the gold. So I've got a contrast with this edge here. So I'll just add that colour onto it. And then if you just pop that to dry, the kitchen roll holder. So you can prepare more of your holly leaves like this. And what I've done, rather than drying it this way, I've just turned it over, so I've got a reverse curve on the shape there. If you do want to add some texture to it as well, just thin the vein area here, so you make it just a little bit wider, and the same on this one, a little bit more interest to it. So just use your stitching wheel like that, and then go down centre on that one. Not too much pressure, just enough to, and then I'm going to add that one down the centre like that.
And we're just going to take a short commercial break.
You could add reds for autumn and bronzes, and that really does make it seasonal, depending on what you're going to use them for. So we just add some green on that one. And on this one here, you can just take elements of it if you want to put just a little bit of that leaf on the side of the cake, incorporating the design. So there's our leaves ready. You can also dry them in the former and in this cupped one as well. So I've covered my cakes where I've got a 4-inch, a 6-inch and an 8-inch cake, and I've covered that with Renshaw sugar paste, and I've coloured this one here with, and the base with pink. Now the naked leaves, when I cut them out, I've placed them just on the edge of each of the tiers there, so you can see I've got their offset, so I've got 1, 2, 3, and then also as well on the baseboard down here we've got the 4th one. So I'm going to secure those with a little bit of Tylose glue, so brushing that onto the back of the leaf, so that will sit on there, and I'm going to repeat that on each of the tiers. So a little bit more Tylose glue, wrong one, So that's going to go on there, and then the same on this one. A little bit of glue and there. Could use some water, or you could use some royal icing, but I'm just going to use the Tylose glue, and then the one on the base here. So we've got those three. Where I want them in situ, like that. Now the leaves that I've had in the plastic sheeting, I'm going to put onto the side of the cake, and I want them to go diagonally across from the acer to the acer, from here to here, and also across from here to here. And then on the top tier, when I go into view again, I'll show you on how I would like to add those. So I'm just going to take a little bit of Tylose glue and just brush that on that edge. And then this, let's push that on. And then the other half, again, some glue on that edge. I just want to offset it so that will go onto that one. It's just away from the edge. And for the second tier, size is a little bit smaller, so that's going to go like that. And then on the top tier, that's going to go from that one over to that edge. Just a little touch more glue on that bottom bit to get that to stick. And I've added the second part of the leaf on the top tier and also to the second tier. So we've got our acer and maple leaves on our cake side now, and I'm going to put the full leaf one, and that's going to go on the bottom tier. So that's secured there. The naked flowers, we've got 3 different sizes and shapes of flower petals, and then we've also got the stamen cutter here, which I'm going to use in different ways to create the center part of the flower. So I'm going to prepare the paste, and I'm using a Mexican paste. You can use a flour paste, but it's recommended that you use a strong flour paste, possibly with a little bit more gum tragacanth in it, or a little bit of Tylose powder. So I've rolled out my Mexican paste, a little bit of Trex over your cutter, and then place over your paste to get a nice clean outline. Just clean up across your cutter like this. Just take out the centre pieces like that to clean any little burry bits. Then use your scriber and just lift the outside edge of those, and then I'm going to tap it quite firmly so that you can then peel away the flower shape. And then I want to just the center part there, so work that away. So we brush over some violet. And then on my sphere formers, this is the inside, you can dry them on here. But I want some to get variation in the sizes of the cut flower. So what I've done is I've just put some cling film over the top, and then this one can dry in there. So you can have more open flower depending on how far you put the cling film down in the mould. Preparing your paste to use, it's really important that you roll it reasonably thin. If it's too thick, then it will get embedded down inside of the cutter. So roll it, okay? Make sure you can lift it from the board and it's like a plastic consistency. And then for this one, again, some tricks on the cutter, over the top, and then roll that one backwards and forwards so that you can see that nice clean outline of the cutter. And then we just take the palette knife across the top and then use your finger to get rid of any of those little sugary bits and take out the you could use on the side of your cake. So now if you just lift one of those corners so that you can let the air underneath, and we do need to make quite a firm tap onto our board so that we can start to peel away the flower shape like that, and you've got that nice elasticy paste which isn't so soft that you're going to lose the shape of your flower. So moving that onto a foam pad, we're then going to take the ball tool, and what I want to do is just rotate that and thin that petal area here. So just work that around. So we're going to continue to thin those petals there. So use a little bit of rose pink cluster and highlight the petal area. And then take your former and just slide that in there so you can have that to dry. For the gerber shaped one, again a little bit of tracks on the edge of the cutter, and this is a lovely burgundy paste that I've rolled out, and again it's fairly thin, plastic consistency. Placing that over your cutter and then rolling over. Just roll that backwards and forwards so that you can see the outside of your petal shape clearly. And then your palette knife just to go across the top like that. Get rid of any of those sugary edges, and then use your finger, and what I'm going to do is just rub my finger across the area there so that I can clearly see the outline. Let's put the paste down like that, so you've got a nice clean outline. And then do the same on the outside of your petal edges like that. Now, as there's no air underneath the paste, what you need to do is just take a scriber and just gently lift each of those center pieces like that. so that you can let the air underneath. And do the same just on the outside edge of those to make sure each one of those. And then if you just take your cutter and turn it over, tap it firmly on your board so that you can see your petal shapes coming forward. And then what you need to do is just gently pull that forward like that so you can get your petal shape out. Just use your palette knife. Just slide your paper underneath like that. Do some kitchen paper. And this is where you just want to check that your centre part of your flower is in each one of those petals. Luster powder, and just brush that over the top. And continue that all the way around. Petals coloured nicely. Going to bring that back onto your foam pad. Then I'm going to use the dog bone tool, this one, and this is the smallest end. I'm just checking underneath there. So what you're going to do is gently push down pressure on the outside one and then apply pressure so it curls in. So the next one, bring that in, a little bit more pressure, continue that all the way around, smooth that over a little bit. So we go into that next one and there. So remember it's this way over. So we'll do the same on that one. And then just bring your finger in. You take your brush again. And what I'm going to do is just coax those in a little more, and then take your piece of paper, slide it onto your paper so that you can then pick it up easier and just slide that into your mould. So you can just check in there. So for the stamens on this particular flower, what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of the Trex on the outside edge. This is my Mexican paste, which is rolled thinly, and for this flower I'm just going to use the full stamen shape. So we'll take that over the top, clean the edges, and then just lift part of that area there so you can take your shape out. This is then going to go onto our pad, and I'm going to work around the edges so it thins, just elongates it slightly. And we'll use that dog bone tool there because I want to cup and then some rose pink just on the edge. And I'm going to just flip this one over so I can get some on the other side. Just a little bit more colour there, just to get that shape cupped a little bit more. And then what I want to do is use a little bit of Tylose glue to pop that in the centre. So the stamens can go in there like that. And use your ball tool just to give it a little indent in the centre. You can use your scriber there if you want to just lift those up a little bit more. Yeah. And then let that dry. So with the stamen cutter, I want to show you how I make them into the segment method. So again, this is the lovely burgundy paste rolled out, a little bit of tracks, and then I want to cut out, I usually cut about 5 of these at a go and work on them. Take out that. So when you've cut them out, pop them onto a piece of kitchen paper. So that we can then just thin them out a little bit. I've got a little contrast in the colour. And then flip that over to do the reverse. And then if you use your palette knife, what you want to do is just to cut them, it doesn't matter exactly where, but randomly into 3 segments. Like that. And then what I'm going to do is to fold it back on itself and bring it together and then roll it between my fingers. So we're like that. So you're going to do that on each one of those. Bring it up, concertina it, and then bring it down. And then once we've done all of those, we can place them back onto our kitchen paper and allow them to dry. So if you want to just take a little bit more powder, just catch the edges where perhaps you might have touched them a little bit more with your finger. But now you've got them all coloured and you've got your single stamens ready to go in the centre of your flower. To make some pearl centres, just take some paste, a little bit of the tracks on there, roll it into a sausage, and then take a palette knife and just cut up into pieces the size of the pearls that you want to make. So just roll them in your hand. So when you've got them all shaped as you want to, just take a small amount of the Crisco on your hand and then just roll them through that. So they've just got a very, very thin coating on the outside, so that when we brush over the luster powder will stick. So, and then we just take our powder and brush that over the top. Let's work it around a little bit more. You can actually pick them up and roll them in your hand again if you want to, but I'm trying to be as less messy as possible, so we get that coating on there. And then we let those dry. If you want to make a contrasting centre part to your flowers, what you can do is you can extend the stamens so they are much bigger. So just make them thinner on your foam pad like this, and then you can cup them a little bit more like that. We're just going to colour those with a little more luster powder on the edge. And you can see just from there, if I just cup it a little bit more, and then this one will go in there. And again, if you want to bring these forward a bit, just lift them up. It's quite warm here this afternoon, so the paste is a little bit softer than normal. Some royal icing, just to pipe that in there. And we can pop the pearl in that part. And for the next one, a little bit more icing in there. And then there's the pearl to go in the centre. If you do have a little bit too much icing, what you can do is just take a paintbrush and take any surplus away from the bottom. On these variations, what I've done is I've elongated the stamen part again and coloured them with a pink and a little bit of lilac. So that just gives you an idea of the different ways that you can colour them up. So what I've done here is just put a little bit of cling film in one of the sphere formers, and this flower is now dry. So what I want to do is just lay it onto the cling film gently, and that just stops it from sliding around a little bit too much, so it gives it a little bit more stability so I can get the stamens in the centre. So to put the individual stamens into the flowers, what I've got is some paste which I'm rolling into a ball. It's probably the size of a marrow fat pea. So I'm going to move those to one side, and then I'm going to take the veining tool, and I want to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes at an angle and 3 in the middle, so that we've got this cone shape. A little bit of Tylose glue, and brush that in the centre of each one of those holes. Just twist the brush and then, using some angled tweezers, you might be able to do it with your fingers, but my fingers are a little bit on the large side for this, so I'm just going to take that and push that into the paste. The next one, so that's pushing that right the way down, in there. It's a little bit bigger, that one, so I'm going to use that one in the centre, so I'll put the smaller one on the outside. and then get that last one in there. Now for the centre ones, here's, oh, and then the last one goes in there. So if you bring in your flower, just going to put a little bit of Tylose glue in the centre, then use your palette knife and just pop that in there. You can use your modelling tool just to anchor it down a little bit more. And then I would let that dry fully. So for the other one, what I've done is made the centre like this, and I'm just brushing over a little bit of luster colour first of all over that centre part. Pop that onto the board. So again, on this one, take your flower centre, just hold on to that so you can push that down in. Let's give it a little bit more of a and then that one dries, so you can see that changing over the stamens in the centre, you've got that nice contrast. So now that we've got all of our flower centres made, we just need to let them dry fully, and then they'll be ready to put onto the cake. So our different variations there of the naked flowers. The same as what we've done with the quilted flower. And then clean the edges, and we're happy with that. So a little bit from there, a bit to the edge between your fingers. So what we've got to do now when they're gathered together, and then if you take your angle tweezers like this so that you can just pop that in like that. These are the flowers that I made in last week's tutorial using the 5-petal flower cutter, and I showed you how to make clematis. Well, this is just the variation of them where I've made some Christmas roses. So unfortunately it's not Christmas just yet, so I'm going to use my demonstration cake here just to show you how I would like to use the holly leaves. So these are the holly leaves that we made and dried, so we can position those onto the cake top. I'm just going to take a little bit of royal icing and pipe that on the back of the holly leaf where I want it to attach onto the cake. And then if you've got any little bits of icing that have come away, just use a damp paintbrush to remove those. And this is a nice idea with the holly because you can have it in different convexes to give you the variation on the top of your cake, whereas this one here, I'm just going to pipe a little bulb of ice in there so I can attach those 2 points to the top of the cake, and then just use the paintbrush to anchor that down. And then put another one on here. So we'll add the other holly leaf in there. Just take that excess away. Now for the Christmas roses, just a little bit of icing on the back, a nice bulb, so you can pop them in. And this gives you your cake top decoration, which is totally edible. You haven't got to worry about any wires. So we'll pop that one there as well. And that's our Christmas idea.
Hi, my name's Paul Bradford and welcome to Module 2, Sugar Paste Fondant Techniques. So the first thing you learn on Module 2 is all about the sugar paste fondants, the good things, the bad things and what to look out for to create absolutely fantastic cakes. So then I'm going to take you on to the next stage, and that's how to colour up your sugar paste stroke fondant. And then after that I'm going to take you on to how to paint on sugar paste, how to create a beautiful little yellow daisies with some leaves. And then we're going to move on to how to make a sugar rose. Now sugar roses are the classic rose on any wedding cake, birthday cake, celebration cake. You're going to love how easy it is to make these beautiful roses. I'm then going to show you how to make very simple punch flowers and punched leaves before then we move on to the actual cake itself. And within the cake I'm going to show you different techniques, how to make swags, how to make ruffles, how to do a fabric effect, and then to finish it off I'm going to show you how to make a fabric bow. As you can see, Module 2 is absolutely full of great techniques for any budding cake designer. So come on, let's get started.
For the leaves that you wire, what I'm doing is using just 1/3 piece of floristry tape there. I'm just going to pop that on, twist it around, and then slide that up to the base of the leaf, like that. So you could tape other leaves together, and if you want to put a group, then I would recommend that you use a flower pick like this to push down into the top of the cake, and then you can tape your other leaves together and insert this safely. To put the flowers on the cake, I am using some large headed pins which I've sterilised, and some royal icing with a large piping tube like this. So I'm going to put a bulb of icing where I want to put the flower on the top, so quite a nice bulb there. So I've lifted it from the former and I'm going to position this onto the top of the cake at the angle. So for the second tier, I'm going to put the flower here. So, and again, some more royal icing. And then position that onto your cake there. And I'm just going to hold that in place with the pin until that is fully set. And onto the side here, some icing, and then our flower. And then the one on the bottom tier. So we put some icing just there. And then take our flower, pop that one. This is our metallic gold leaf that we made in week 1. Take another piece of the plastic, okay, And then take your lace icing, take this over the top like that, and then what you're going to do is bring that together and then squidge it over with your fingers like this. And if I pull that away like this, now what I'm going to do is to let that dry. If you peel off your paper like this, and then if you take a palette knife, you can lift this up. So you've got your metallic mesh. So what I'm going to do is I'm just brushing a little bit of Trex or vegetable shortening in the area where I want to put the mesh. And then if you take your palette knife and just pop that where you want it to go, you can use your brush then just to secure it down. So if you want to put little bits, you can just add that.
Thank you all for watching the last 6 weeks of episodes of Steve's Sugarcraft tutorials. I hope to be back later in the year, so stay tuned and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.